Welcome to the third episode of the Revver Show. It's almost Halloween, and you can already see I'm ready. I have my Halloween lights, I have my boo here. So we have a lot of fun stuff to. I've always thought a good mouse is imperative for a good experience at Rev, which is why I chose the Logitech G502 Hero as my daily driver. It's a gaming focused mouse with plenty of programmable macro buttons on it, and naturally, a few RGB lights. You can find this mouse anywhere, and it usually retails for between 45 and 80 US dollars depending on how you spec it out. Starting with the macros, the buttons closest to my index finger, I control the DPI of my mouse with, or dots per inch. The higher the number, the faster your cursor moves across the screen relative to your hand's movement. For creating graphics and working on videos, it helps to be able to quickly control that for greater precision instead of having to adjust it in my operating system every time I want to change it. The two on the side are forward and back. Super helpful when quickly going back and forth between pages when browsing the internet. Lastly, the larger button near the tip of my thumb I have programmed as a macro for Control S. When working on videos, it's a lifesaver because I don't have to actually press Control S with my left hand. I can just hit the button on the mouse and it's done. As far as using it for Rev, there are endless possibilities for programming macros and shortcuts to improve your experience. That's the great thing about it. You don't have to follow my setup exactly. You can program each button to do whatever you want. The mouse wheel can be toggled between free spinning or having regular detents as you would normally expect on the majority of mice. When you're scrolling through hundreds of forum posts and needing to get somewhere quickly, it really helps when you can let it just spin. It can also be tilted left and right, which I have a macro set to continually scroll left and right on the page. You can also fine-tune the weight of the mouse. There's a magnetic cover on the bottom, and included are 3.6 gram weights, so you can dial in exactly what you want. I prefer the mouse to be as heavy as possible, so I have all the weights in here. It's definitely a more confident feel than a really flimsy, light mouse. Lastly, it comes with supporting software, Logitech G Hub, where you can dial in your preferences on mouse behavior, macros, and RGB lighting. I'll have a link in the description. Okay, well, we were supposed to have an interview, but kind of fell through. Hello? Oh, it's Alyssa from the Growth Retention team, and she wants to interview with us. Let's go talk to her. Just a quick side note. We scheduled this interview, and then the day of, Alyssa lost her voice. But she still wanted to continue with us, so she's a trooper for sticking it through. So just keep that in mind. Alyssa, where are you from?
So I'm from Cupertino, California. It's in the Bay Area. I currently live in Austin, Texas, though. So I actually moved out here when I went to UT for computer science, and then I never left, and now I've been here for about 10 years. But I am from the Bay Area. So.
Great. And what do you do for Rev?
I am a senior software engineer. I'm on the growth retention team. A lot of times my team kind of tackles the big projects that Rev needs done. So we've gotten to work a lot of cool different things. But yeah, so I do a lot of programming. I'm often just working with others and putting out some good code.
Awesome. What programming languages, by the way?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's in C sharp. For the most part, we also use TypeScript. Just depends on working on front end, back end. We've got some other languages floating around, but those are the main two.
I've heard from others that we use a little JavaScript here and there, which I'm slightly familiar with like Adobe After Effects, but it's still kind of mystifying to me.
Yeah, wow. I don't know about using JavaScript and After Effects. That sounds mystifying to me. But yeah,
It,
TypeScript is pretty similar to JavaScript. So I think you do just fine.
Awesome. How long have you been with Rev now, and how did you start originally?
Yeah, so I've been at Rev for about 2 years, I think. It's kind of all fuzzy. It's been about 2 years. I think the 2 year anniversary was just this last month. But I actually came to Rev when I had a job after college. But when I was looking for that first job, I actually interviewed with Rev too. And ended up I ended up having to do a bunch of interview processes, and I didn't get the chance to go to Rev's hackathon in California. So I was actually in Texas, going to school, finishing up school, and I wasn't able to fly out. So once I was looking for another job after my first job, I remembered loving Rev, loving what their mission is, because a lot of times I'm looking for jobs where I get to do good with my code. And Rev, I liked that Rev kind of aligns with that. So I ended up reaching out to Mark, who's a manager here, and we went to grad school together at UT, and asked like, hey, how are things? I'm actually thinking about interviewing with Rev. And he was like, yeah, you should. So he told me about it. Sounded amazing. Sounded like the culture was really cool. So I interviewed and came on over, and I've loved it ever since.
Great. And I'm guessing you're referring to Mark Chin, right?
No, Mark Gray.
Oh, Mark Gray. Okay.
Yeah. He's an engineering manager here.
Okay. And I'm guessing he's been here for a while. Like we just for the Revvers out there, we've hired like a bazillion people in the last year. So like, I don't know, there's duplicates of like all these people. There's like a million Pats. There's like, I guess, three
It's true.
Patricks now.
There's now another Alyssa slash Alyssa. So
Yeah,
another
there you go.
one.
So okay, wrong one. Uh, is there anything that you're working on that you can share? Any fun stuff? Any fun?
Yeah. So before I came to Rev, I had been working a lot on microservices, which a easy way to understand that is just like you have your big code base or code monolith. It's all in one place. Oftentimes, that can make it hard to work on and reason about because it's all in one place. With microservices, you cut off portions and make smaller modules of code that people can reason about. It all interacts differently. So I've been working on that here actually. So recently I've been working on splitting out the ability when you put in a link at Rev and it gives you information about that link. We're moving that code out of the monolith into its own microservice. That's been going on for half a year now, but we've had other microservices going. So it enables our engineers to work faster, work cleaner, and will hopefully allow us to get out more cool features for everybody.
You've been here for a couple of years. Are there any fun stories from Rev over the last couple of years? Just events and things like that.
Yeah. So when I first joined at Rev, I got to work in person with a lot of people, but about 6 months later, we had to go to working from home. And so I love to talk to people. I love to meet people. I would say I'm pretty social. So I wanted to still hang out with my coworkers in some way that was safe online. And so we actually started doing D&D. And so we had a small D&D group. We've actually stopped recently, but I got to DM, which is so D&D is Dungeons and Dragons. So it's a tabletop game that you can play with multiple people online. And so I had a bunch of coworkers and I got to basically form the story as dungeon master. And that was my first time. It's a big responsibility because you're basically creating and outlining the story and making sure that everything goes okay. You're controlling all the other characters that they meet. And that was a lot of fun and a lot of ridiculous things happened during it. I would say it's one of the biggest highlights I've had working at Rev, especially because we've had to work from home so much. I got to, make new friends through that and also through board gaming, which as things have gotten better, I've gotten to meet up with some coworkers and play board games. And so while we didn't get to have like big summer events, things like that, a year ago, 2 years ago, I've got to still hang out and spend a lot of time with my coworkers through board gaming and online gaming.
Well, that's always fun, you know, and I need to give that another chance, like tabletop games and stuff like that. We had a hobby store like half a mile up the road, and they played D&D and a bunch of other stuff, or like Magic the Gathering. And
Yep.
I walked in there to like check it out, and there was like 40 people in the back room like playing it, and I kind of checked it out. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll come back, but I didn't, so maybe I should give it another chance.
You should. I would say our community is very welcoming to new tabletoppers. We always want more people playing tabletop games.
Since Halloween's coming up, what are you doing for Halloween?
Well, I this is going to be the first Halloween in my own home, so I'm very excited because I'll actually have trick-or-treaters. So mainly decorating, staying at home, waiting for the trick-or-treaters. I also have an 8-month-old puppy, so I'm gonna be very, anxious about him barking every time someone rings the doorbell. He's a small thing. He's only a corgi, so it's not gonna scare anybody. He just really wants to say hi to everyone. So that's probably gonna be the majority of my Halloween. I'm excited. I'm also gonna have to be managing the puppy.
What's a fun story from your previous Halloween, or like fun costumes or anything? Like one of your favorite costumes?
Ooh, well, fun story. I guess it's kind of a tradition in my family to carve pumpkins the night of Halloween. So oftentimes what we do is we make faces for every person in the family and all the pets. And it used to be manageable when we had one cat. And then my sister got a cat. And now I have a dog and a cat. And she has another cat. So it's probably good that we still do faces and everything. And now that I'm here, they make one for me, but we haven't made one for all the pets in a while. But I think this year I might make one for my cat and dog. So it's a lot of work when you're doing it the night of Halloween and you're trying to get it all done before the trick-or-treaters come. But it's a lot of great memories growing up, carving pumpkins, inviting friends to carve pumpkins. Otherwise, for outfits, let's see. I've done a lot of different costumes. I'm gonna try to be a fairy this year. I got this poofy rainbow dress and fairy wings. I've also liked to make my own costumes. So in the past, I've been different characters, different like video game characters. And I usually will take those to like conventions and stuff, but sometimes I'll use them for Halloween. And it's really fun to be able to bring them back out when you're not just going to a convention. So in the past, I've been characters from Overwatch. I've been characters from the silly game called Overcooked, where you're a bunch of chefs. So lots of different silly outfits. I think Halloween's kind of big for me, so I try to dress up.
Aren't there 2 Overcooked games now?
There are, yeah, and we've done a group like costume before, where everybody kind of chooses a different character that you could be. Someone was the box head, where it's just a box, and they're wearing like, I made aprons for everybody, and then I was the unicorn. There's like a fancy unicorn, and we've had a whole bunch of characters, which was really fun because all together we look ridiculous.
Alyssa, I really appreciate you joining us today. We were happy to have you. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this episode. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Your subscription is greatly appreciated, and it really helps me keep doing this. Also, have a happy Halloween and stay safe.